I see some familiar faces. Thanks everybody for showing up and showing some support today. So we're actually going to get started right away with some exercise. I'm Dr. Jaimie Roper, and I'm an assistant professor at Auburn University. So hello if I don't know you. You're going to need some sort of chair to sit in if you don't feel 100% stable typically, or if you're just not feeling like standing up today, that's totally okay. You can do all of these exercises just from a chair. So we're going to get started, and like I said, grab water, grab whatever you need during this. You do not need to push yourself or rush at all. And then I'm going to talk to you about why exercise is so awesome and basically a really good drug for your brain. So if you'll all start in a seated position, we're going to start with putting one leg out. And we're going to take your arms up, so nice and big. We're going to get a good shoulder stretch. And you can also do this standing if you don't have a chair. So this is still a standing exercise as well. And you're going to take your shoulders back behind you, get a nice stretch across your chest, and then we're going to fold at the waist. So keep your spine straight and long, and sweep your arms down towards your heel and back up. So we're going to do 5 more of these together. And so if you're standing, that's going to look something like this. And it should be giving you some blood flow to your arms, a stretch across your chest, and then also you should feel the back of your hamstring and maybe even your calf getting some stretch to it. So a couple more here. And again, this is an easy one to do either standing or seated in a chair. When you've done 5 on that right side, go ahead and stretch your left leg out now, nice and straight. Same thing on the left side. And totally normal to feel like one side just is different than the other. So you may not have to go down as far on your left side to feel that stretch. You can take these as slow as you'd like. The big thing, especially with Parkinson's, is getting our movements nice and big. So getting our arms and our elbows straight and maintaining that through this whole range of motion. So that's going to be our warm-up for today. I'm going to make sure I have a timer going so I don't go too far over. Next, we're going to get our feet warmed up. So you can leave your foot on the floor. I'm going to show you what it looks like up here just so you can see it a little bit better. So now we're just going to do some warm-ups for our feet. So we're going to point our toes and then flex them back towards our nose. Point and flex, point and flex. And then we're going to take 2 ankle circles to the right and 2 ankle circles to the left. Then we're going to do that again. So point and flex, point and flex, 2 circles to the right, and 2 circles to the left. One more time on the left. So point and flex, point and flex, 2 circles to the right, and then 2 circles to the left. Now we're going to switch. Same thing on the right side or whatever foot you haven't done yet. So point and flex twice, then 2 circles to the right, and 2 to the left. And twice more, so point and flex, 2 circles to the right, and then 2 circles to the left, point and flex, circle to the right twice, circle to the left twice. Good. So again, options galore here, so you can stay seated for this next part, or you can stand up. We're going to just bring our left knee up and also squeeze our ab muscles. So make sure you're getting some work in your core, and then set your foot back down. We don't want your foot to slam back to the ground, so I shouldn't hear anything loud. Instead, set it back down softly. We're just going to do 5 on the left and then switch to the right. Like I said, you can also do this standing. If you're standing though, go ahead and hang on to something for balance. Just make sure we're not trying to challenge your balance today. We can still get a good workout and feel stable. So next, we're going to take our foot up and kick it out straight, take it back, and set it back down. We're going to do 5 of those on the left, and then 5 on the right. If this is too much for you, what you can do is you can slide your foot out on the floor, straight out, and then slide it back in and bring it up. So modifications galore again for whatever you need. And same thing, I'm going to show you what that looks like standing on the right side. So really similar actually, but nice, quiet feet when you bring them back to the floor to help control that foot. And we're waking up not just the leg muscles, but also our ab muscles here. All right, so now we're going to jump into some quick learning on boxing. So I'm not sure how many of you have boxed before, but it's okay if you have no experience or a lot of it. We're going to start out with learning something called the jab. And to do so, I want you to take kind of a staggered step. Your non-dominant arm is going to actually be in front. So for the righties, that's your left arm will be out in front and left leg out in front. And so a jab is just straight in front of us. Notice that my hand's up, it's not down, and also my elbow's nice and straight. And when I bring my hand back in, it comes back to my face. So it's not staying out here. We're coming right back. And same with when I punch forward, we don't want to get too far forward on our toes. We want to stay close with our body weight over our feet. So everybody join me here. We're going to do 20 seconds of jabs, and then we're going to add some more boxing moves in. Good. And you can take this as slow or as fast as you want. Quality to me is more important than how fast you're going. Especially something like boxing, it takes a lot of coordination for your brain and your body. Good job. Everybody looks good that I can see. All right, so the next thing is the cross. So if I face the camera, you'll see the cross is with your dominant arm. So that's the arm in the back. So you're going to punch and you'll see that the body move or the arm moves across your body rather than the jab, which is just straight out in front. So we're just going to cross now. We're just going to take those crosses about 20 seconds again. And again, we're going to keep our hands close to our face if we're not punching. And once we start doing more combination things, you're going to see that that's important for your brain, for the left and the right side to talk to each other. All right, good. 5 more seconds here. Again, this is at your own pace. Go at the speed you need to go at. All right, good. So next we're going to do something that we can move a little faster at. So these are called uppercuts. And I want you to imagine basically a rope right around belly button level. And you want to try to really get your arms up and under that. And imagine that every time you're coming up, you're making contact with something. So we're bringing our arms up and under. And notice my feet are nice and wide. I have a really stable base. And this is another one of those places where I'm squeezing my abs. Abs, abs, abs. The people that work out with us every Thursday know we like to focus on our abs. So 10 more seconds here. And again, all of this can be done from your chair. You do not have to get out of your chair if you want to just sit. Or maybe you don't have a lot of space. And so a chair is just easier. All right, great job. All right, so I'm also going to show you some defensive moves today. So anytime we're doing boxing, if you're not punching, your arms stay up by your face. And feet stay wide, just like we were doing jab crosses. but now we're going to do something called a slip. And if you imagine me punching towards you, if you were going to dodge that, you would move to the left or to the right, depending on which arm I'm using, right? So if I say slip left, you're going to actually feel your ab muscles. You can even put your hands there if you like. When we move to the left, it's like doing a little mini crunch. So really squeeze your abs depending on what side you're going to. So if we go to the left, you're going to feel the left. If we go to the right, you'll feel the right. And we're just going to do that for about 20 seconds. You'll see it's just a really subtle movement. We're keeping our chests up nice and proud. And we're just subtle movement, dodging those punches, right? Good work, everybody. Looks good. Keep squeezing those abs. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. All right, good. Now we're going to start the fun stuff. So now we're going to work on some circuits. So if you are in a chair, we're going to do 30 seconds of a boxing move, and I'll show you what that'll be soon. But then for the strength part of it, if you're standing, I want you to do a squat, and that can be just a small movement. Important part is to keep your chest up. If you feel like you're falling forward, just don't go down as much, just bend a little bit. If you're in your chair, then what you're going to do, and if you could mix it up, you could stand and you could sit. So if you're sitting in the chair, for the part where we squat, you're just going to go back to leg marches. That works similar muscles. So for the boxing part, we're going to start in 10 seconds, and we're going to do a jab cross for 30 seconds. In 3, 2, 1, let's box. Again, this is at your own pace. I'm going to ask you for the last 10 seconds to actually pick up the pace. So not yet, but in about 5 seconds. All right, and box fast. Here we go. Fast as you can. Good job, good job. Keep it going. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Shake your arms out. And if you're standing with me, we're going to start squatting right away. Or if you're in your chair, you're doing those marches. If squats don't feel good and you're standing, you can join me with a standing march too. All right, we've got 10 seconds. And then we're going to do something we haven't done yet called a jab, jab, cross. So this is another boxing combo. So back into our boxing stance. And now if you're righty, we're going to go left, left, right. If you're lefty, it's right, right, left. But left, left, right, jab, jab, cross, starting now. Here we go. Join me. And in 2 seconds, starting now, we're going to go a little bit faster. See if you can pick it up for 10 seconds. Good. Now this time, those of you standing, we're just going to do a side lunge. So just with the right leg, you're going to step out and back in, out and back in. If you're seated, you're going to do a wide leg swing. So you're going to swing your leg out and back in, out and back in. You're going to do that for 5 more seconds. And then we're going to do the other side after our next boxing round. So this boxing round, we're going to do uppercuts. So everybody join me here. Uppercuts. Good work. And pick up the pace. Last 10 seconds. Uppercuts for everybody. Good. And now for our strength part, we're going to just do the opposite side. So if that's your left, join me now with side lunges, or in the chair, you're going to do those wide leg swings. Good job, everybody. Ten more seconds here. And here we're going to play a little game of Simon Says for 1 full minute. So Back to boxing. Everybody's doing a jab cross. And if you hear me say jab, jab, cross, then you're going to do a jab, jab, cross. If I say uppercut, then you're going to give me 4 uppercuts. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. If I say squat, you'll give me a squat. If I say slip, you give me a slip to the left and a slip to the right. All right? So we got a little bit more time here. Jab, jab, cross. And then back to jab crosses. Slip. Squat. Squat. Good. Jab, jab, cross. Uppercut. Uppercut. Good. All right. We're going to go through that one more time, the whole thing. So we're going to go back to just jab crosses for 30 seconds. And then we'll do some squats for another 30. Grab water if you need it. If you need to transition to your chair, that's totally fine. And you can slow down too. It's easy with boxing to get going fast and get out of breath quickly. All right, so squats. Remember, you don't have to go back very far. Your booty should push back first and then you go down. So when you stand up, you're pushing your butt back and then down. Take it nice and slow until you feel comfortable with it. Next up, we're going to do jab, jab, cross in 5 seconds. All right, here we go. So jab, jab, cross. And I think good work. Remember, after jab, jab, cross, we're doing the right leg lunge. Or if you're seated, a right leg wide swing. In 3, 2, 1. Take it into right leg lunges, just the right leg. So I like moving sideways because our bodies are so used to moving forwards and we kind of ignore going left and right when we work out. But that's actually a pretty big muscle that we're working, and it's one that also helps with getting in and out of a car or protecting us against falls. So it's important to do these left to right movements that work the side of the leg. All right, so now we're back to uppercuts at your own speed. 30 seconds here. So we're about halfway through. 15 left. And these right-left movements are really great for creating those connections in the brain that might need a little bit more connection. All right, now we're back to our left leg. Either the wide leg swings while you're seated or the lunges to the side. Good work, everybody. 10 seconds left here. Then we're going to go back to that Simon Says game. So we're going to do a jab, cross, unless I call something else for a full minute. All right, here we go. So back to jab, cross, slip, squat, 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 jab, jab, cross, slip, slip. Oh, good job. That one was a good one. Uppercut, jab, jab, cross, uppercut. Challenging a little bit, huh? Squat, squat, uppercut, uppercut, jab, jab, cross, squat, squat, uppercut, jab, jab, cross, All right, good job. All right, that is our worst of the workout right there. Those of you who work out with us on Thursdays, you know we got to finish with a little bit more ab work. So I'm going to have you either from standing or sitting, you're going to take your hands lightly to the back of your head, and we're going to twist to the right and hold it here while we squeeze really hard with our abs for 3 seconds. 2, 1. Nice and slow back to the center, over to the left. 3, 2, 1. Nice and slow, back to the center. Squeeze for 3, 2, 1. Back to center, over to the left. So twisting is one of those things that's great for people with Parkinson's. Go ahead and back to center, over to the right, because we see a lot of digestion issues, right? Hold and squeeze, back to center, over to the left, and squeeze. So twists and really squeezing our abs and using our abs back to center is great for people with Parkinson's. Go ahead and let yourself relax a little bit. Now we're going to do just some wrist stretching, so similar to carpal tunnel stretching. So go ahead and grab your hand and you're going to extend it out and just stretch out your fingers and your wrists here. We're just going to hold for about 20 seconds. And then we'll switch sides. So switch to your other hand. So what I was saying, I really like twists and ab work. And you can do ab work just while you're walking or sitting. If you're squeezing your abs like we're going to take a punch, that will turn your abs on. That will engage your abs, similar to a sit-up. All right, go back to the right hand or your first hand, wherever you were, for a little bit more, and back to our second hand. And then we're going to drop our chin to our chest and roll our left ear to the left shoulder. Then we're going to slowly drop the chin back to the chest and roll over to the right. And back to the center of the chest, over to the left. Back to center, over to the right. Good. Now I want you to take your left leg and bring it up and over your right knee. This might be enough of a stretch that you're feeling it on the outside of your hip. If it's not, what you can do is come a little bit forward in your chair, so you can lean a little bit forward, but keep your chest proud, keep it up tall. And instead of grabbing on for dear life and pulling yourself towards your shin, I want you to put your hands up. So it just kind of stops us from subconsciously grabbing and yanking on our leg. And just feel that stretch on the outside of the leg. All right, and switch sides. Same thing here. So don't forget, we're not hanging on for dear life to our shin. Make sure you put your hands up and push your chest up nice and proud. And just breathe. All right, that is the end of the workout. So give yourself a round of applause. We did the hard part today. All right, I'm just going to swing my screen over and we're going to keep chatting. So if you need to grab a glass of water or a towel or just get into a more comfortable seat, go ahead and do that. I'm going to start with telling everybody about our plan for today. I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see a little bit better. Okay, so thank you all for joining. That was a wonderful, I love doing that because it keeps me accountable too. So my name, like I said, is Dr. Jaimie Roper. I'm an assistant professor from Auburn University, and I'm also the director of the Locomotor and Movement Control Lab. And my research in the lab focuses on understanding mobility disability with aging, and specifically my group focuses on neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's disease, and our goal is to help those people move better. So today, what I hope you walk away learning is that exercise can benefit the brain, but hopefully you learn exactly what that is. So when you're telling other people about why they should be exercising, they'll have like actual knowledge to take with them and feel empowered about that. I hope we'll also walk away learning what symptoms improve with exercise, the best exercise for Parkinson's, what we can use for motivation. And then the number one thing I hope is that you understand that exercise is medicine. It's not just a recommendation, and it's actually helpful to do daily. And so there's short-term and long-term benefits to exercising. And so for that reason, I love this quote, and I wanted to start off today of the webinar part with this, and that is that exercise needs to move from a recommendation to a prescription for people with Parkinson's. And this was actually said by somebody I admire in the field, Dr. Jay Alberts. He's definitely a leading expert in Parkinson's and exercise. And so if you don't know who he is, check him out. I'm also going to give him another shout out at the end, so you'll learn a little bit more about Dr. Alberts. So before we can get too far ahead of ourselves with understanding exercise in the brain, we need to know what happens in the brain in a person with Parkinson's disease versus someone without Parkinson's disease. So here, we're looking at the bottom side of the brain. And so if you imagine just this giant brain above you, we're looking at the bottom of it. So if you were to look up, we'd see into the bottom of the brain. And we've taken a chunk of the brain out in this image, but what you should focus on is this kind of smashed Mickey Mouse structure that we see. And if we zoom in on that, we can see that Mickey Mouse actually has these two dark lines where the ears meet the head. And those dark lines are dopamine neurons. And we expect to see those dark lines in a healthy brain. And that reflects that dopamine is being produced at healthy levels for scientists and clinicians who are looking at these images. So what we see when we look at the Parkinson's brainstem, we see less evidence of these neurons that produce dopamine. And this specific area is known as the substantia nigra. So for those of you who are following kind of the evidence-based stuff with Parkinson's, you've probably heard that before, that term. And this area, the substantia nigra, is linked and is famously known for movement-related functions. And so that kind of makes sense then, right? Like we understand now if substantia nigra is linked to movement-related functions, it should make sense why with Parkinson's we see a large amount of these neurons have died, and people with Parkinson's experience movement issues like tremor and rigidity and slowness of movement and postural instability. And along with movement, this area also functions as an important role in learning and in addiction and also in emotion. So this is why we can often see non-physical issues as well with Parkinson's. And it's thought that this dopamine depletion in the brain is linked to clinical symptoms, several clinical symptoms, in fact, that are both physical and non-physical. And while this list isn't entirely extensive of what symptoms some people can have, we don't really, we know that most people have both symptoms at some point in their disease process. And while we don't really know what's causing this dopamine depletion with Parkinson's, we do know that there's some neuroinflammatory mechanisms that get associated with the pathophysiology of the disease. And luckily, we also know that exercise can help combat some of those neuroinflammatory mechanisms. So it stands to reason that exercise can also help Parkinson's. And exactly how, we don't necessarily even know the answer to exactly what's happening, but what we think is happening is that exercise, one, lowers the risk of developing neurodegenerative diseases. So we know that if you're exercising regularly, you have a lower chance of developing Parkinson's or developing Alzheimer's and another neurodegenerative disease. But however, just because you may have one of those diseases, don't tune out just yet, because that doesn't mean that exercise won't help you. And in fact, it's quite the opposite. Exercise actually helps to reduce symptoms, and it also helps slow the rate of disease progression in Parkinson's and in Alzheimer's. So that's pretty awesome. And specifically, exercise has been linked to increases in blood supply to the brain, and also neurotrophic factors. So these are healthy proteins in our brain that help with neurogenesis and also synapse function. And ultimately, this helps lead to better brain health, better physical health, and also slowing of the disease process. So those are all good things. And so remember when I showed you this slide earlier of the brain, we talked about the loss of the neurons that produce dopamine, and that ultimately leads to Parkinson's. Well, we know from both animal models and also human imaging studies that while you don't get dopamine cells back, so once they're gone, they're gone. But what's awesome with exercise is that it actually enhances structural change, or the structures that use dopamine in the brain. And so you become more efficient. The places that use dopamine actually get better at using it. And another fun fact with exercise is that depending on how much coordination you're using in your exercises, so things like boxing, we think help with structural adaptations in the brain as well. And then if you're picking activities that you like to do and that you actually enjoy, you get this other awesome 2-for-1, because now you're getting rewarded in the brain and in the areas that use dopamine. And that also helps to promote learning and relearning. And so one of the things we were going to talk about was also what symptoms get better with exercise. The long story short here is a lot of them. And this list is by no means complete, but what I want you to see here is that we see both physical and non-physical symptoms on this list that evidence from research shows get better, or at least improve. So we may not completely get rid of falls or freezing of gait, but we know the exercise can reduce the amount of falls or freezes that somebody has. And what's extra neat is that there's evidence that suggests that some of these improvements are immediate, meaning that you're going to notice immediately after you finish your exercise that your symptoms have gotten better, but you can still get the long-term benefits of exercise as well. So that's pretty awesome. One of the other things that the people who see me every Thursday know is I like this number, 2.5. 2.5 hours a week is our magic number, and that is how much exercise it takes per week to slow the rate of disease progression in Parkinson's. So that's a huge number, I know. But the other fun fact about this is it also happens to be the recommended amount of time for everybody to exercise every week. So whether you have Parkinson's or not. So that's really cool, because that means if you have Parkinson's, you don't have to work any harder than your partner or your child that doesn't have it, for this awesome benefit to help you slow disease progression and better your symptoms.
I go 2.5 hours a week.
So one of the other ways we can break this number down, right, is 150 minutes. And the current recommendations right now for all adults are 150 minutes at moderate intensity or 75 minutes a week at vigorous intensity. And so there's lots of ways you can determine your intensity levels during exercise. So some people like to use heart rate. There's also something called an RPE scale, but I really prefer this talk test. So if you're looking to get moderate intensity exercise, you should be able to talk, but you shouldn't be able to sing. And if you're getting vigorous exercise, you're probably not able to speak a full sentence without taking a full breath in between. So you should have difficulty talking, meaning you're only getting a few words out at a time. So that's one easy way just to check in while you're exercising to make sure you're getting the right intensity levels. So if we further break this down into how much a day you should get, because hopefully by now I've started to convince you that exercise is medicine and we should be taking our medicine daily. So that means 20 minutes a day of exercise. And if you're not quite convinced and you're thinking, well, I'll do 5 days a week, then that's 30 minutes a day if you're doing 5 days a week. If you're doing vigorous exercise, then that's about 10 minutes. So if you're doing daily exercise, and then 15 if you're at 5 days a week. And these are minimum numbers. So yes, you can definitely go over these if you want. With moderate intensity, if you're doing 20 minutes a day, you could break that into 2 sessions. So you could go for a 10-minute walk after breakfast and then 10 minutes after dinner. There's lots of ways to get your time. And also important to say here that you can mix and match. So if Mondays you go to boxing and that's vigorous, and you know you're getting your vigorous intensity in, you can definitely do moderate intensity the rest of the days of the week. So the other question I get a lot is, well, what is the best type of exercise for people with Parkinson's disease? And the short answer there is whatever you will stick with. So if 1 week or 1 month you're really into cycling and your bike feels great, and then the next month you get invited to a lot of dance classes and go dancing, that's great. I'm going to tell you about my favorite 5 that I typically talk with people about. And then I want to emphasize here, though, that what science says for Parkinson's disease, the most important thing is this idea called forced exercise. And it sounds way more harsh than it actually is, I think. But forced exercise is essentially moving faster or harder than you would on your own. And that's especially important for people with Parkinson's, who tend to self-select more slow movements. So this started actually in rats, and then it was moved to humans by Dr. Alberts, the guy who had my favorite quote at the beginning. And Dr. Alberts has been studying this for quite a bit now, and definitely a forced exercise expert. And he noticed this while he was actually cycling with a friend who had Parkinson's, and noticed that when she pedaled at his cadence a little bit faster, her symptoms got better than when she was just cycling on her own. And so moving faster or harder than you would on your own is key when you're exercising. So one way is to do that with the bike. That is the traditional historic way. And Dr. Alberts has created this program called Pedaling for Parkinson's. It's a free or low-cost indoor class. It's in 40 different states right now. It's at a lot, most states have it ran through their YMCA, so it might be in a gym that's close to where you're at. If it's not, they have a spot on their website where you can go and sign up and request that they implement this program at your gym. And while you're waiting, they actually have Pedaling for Parkinson's online now. So in a Zoom setting similar to what we're doing right now. And even if that's not an option for you, actually Dr. Alberts has classes himself of him teaching these Zoom classes on YouTube. So if you YouTube search Pedaling for Parkinson's Dr. Alberts, you'll probably find his classes. One thing I'd like to note here is I would not recommend going out on your street bike, on your road bike, and doing this activity while listening to somebody's class. If you're not going to be on a stationary bike or an elliptical, so I know a lot of people are adverse to bikes, but you can also use this with an elliptical. That's the gold standard right there. We don't give out extra points for challenging our balance for forced exercise. So I'd much rather you be on something stationary that's stable than out on your normal road bike. So another way we can use forced exercise across lots of different modalities is through music. So when you go for a walk, or while you're on your stationary bike, or even while you're boxing, you can turn some songs on that have a little bit higher pace and simply just try to move to those. So that's another good way to use this forced exercise concept. Dance is also another great way to move faster or harder than you would on your own. And what's awesome, actually, a couple of days ago, I was looking up what was available online. That's one positive I feel like the pandemic has brought out, is that a lot more people went to online to exercise and create exercise content. So if you search in YouTube Parkinson's dance, you'll find a ton of dance classes that you can be in a room as small as like your bathroom and be able to take the dance class, or you can do it from a chair. There's lots of options there. So I highly encourage you to check that out as well. One of my personal favorite ways to get movement in is walking, because it's so accessible. And with walking, you can harness forced exercise by going with a friend who might move a little bit faster than you, or a partner. And you could even do circuits there, where for 1 minute you're walking at the pace that your child would normally walk, or your spouse or your grandchild, and then walk at your comfortable pace, and do that for 10 minutes. And last, boxing is, as you all know now, one of my favorite things for people with Parkinson's. So it's easy to set a timer and go through some rounds of boxing like we just did. And if you're going for about a minute, I do think you'll get breathless enough that you'd be in that vigorous state. So if you did 12 rounds of 1 minute of boxing with 1 minute of rest, that would be pretty easy for you to get your daily exercise in. And there's also a lot of gyms that are starting to pop up that offer specific Parkinson's boxing classes. And those are ran through what's called Rock Steady Boxing. And that's another great program that uses this idea of forced exercise to help people with Parkinson's move better. So shifting away from types of exercise and kind of like, all right, now how do I stick with it? What drives you to exercise is so important. And I think this is just such a timely thing to talk about right now, especially with New Year's resolutions maybe starting to slip. It's that time of year. So what drives you to exercise? I think that's different for everybody. And so you need to find what will help you best. And that might change from month to month, or even day to day. But if you know you're a social butterfly, or that you enjoy talking with your spouse or a child, maybe take the phone with you while you're out for a walk, rather than just sitting on your deck or in a chair. Exercise with a buddy. And it could also be something as simple as maybe you're not exercising together, but you use an accountability partner to check in with. Another thing, I know a lot of people that don't enjoy the exercise part, but they know what the benefits are, and so they do it anyways. I'm not one of those people. I have to enjoy what I'm doing. And so I would highly encourage you to grab a sticky note after this talk and write down 3 to 5 things that you love to do, that you feel like re-energize you at the end of what you're doing. So that might be like a walk at a special place like a park, or if you live near a university. I feel like campuses are always just beautiful places to go for a walk, and we're almost into that nice springtime where everything's blooming. Maybe you really enjoy coffee, and either biking to a coffee shop, or if that's not an option, even just parking 10 minutes away and walking to the coffee shop and then walking back to your car, or joining some sort of class with a friend. Those are all good ways that you could find enjoyment in what you're doing. But I would encourage you to write it down on a sticky note and put it on your bathroom mirror or on your fridge, somewhere where if you're not feeling motivated, you go back to that sticky note and see like, okay, that's one thing I can do. Another part of this enjoyment thing is learning or exploring. So one thing that I've actually enjoyed for almost like 15 years now is something called geocaching. And it's kind of like, they offer geocaching at state parks, but it's also something you'll find in cities as well. And it's basically treasure hunting for all ages. And there's actually a Parkinson's Foundation awareness coin. Currently it's in Florida. But there's a geocache specifically that has it, and it gets passed around to different caches depending on who finds it. But it's fun, and it's fun to do with people of all ages. And it's a way to kind of itch that learning, exploring part of your brain. Hiking is also another great thing to do if you're a learner or explorer. Another thing is competition. And this doesn't, I think when we say competition, we tend to think of like with other people, and that's definitely an option, but there's also ways to be competitive with yourself. So there's a lot of ways now to track your fitness or competitive goals through Fitbit or iPhone. There's also Peloton and Strava. And then there's just simply like an old-fashioned way, right? Which would be like at the first of the month, I'm going to walk for 10 minutes and I'm going to see if I can get past like wherever I got the month before. So maybe that was, Susie's mailbox, but now I'm going to try to make it to 3 mailboxes down. So compete with yourself too. Don't just compete with others. And, there's, like I said, easy ways to come up with little competitions if that's the thing that really motivates you. The other thing I think that our type A people really like are task completion tasks. So thinking about ways to track your fitness, whether that's an activity log or even, 1 year actually, my husband and I had a goal to run a mile every day. And so it was fun to go back at the end of the year and see, and all we did was cross off, like you see in this picture here, this calendar that had all 12 months on it. And we were able to see how many days we actually got that done. So some sort of task completion thing can also be a driving force for you to complete exercise. To kind of wrap things up here, I wanted to let you know at the end of all of this, I think in about a week or two when this webinar is posted, my team and I have each made a specific exercise program, a weekly exercise program. So you have 5 weeks of programs that will be uploaded to the webinar website. And you can also email me. I'm going to show you my email at the end of this. If you don't know how to get there, or if you want me just to send it to you right away, I can do that. But we've come up with themes. So we tried to keep them, nice and cheesy, so you remember what each theme is. So, like Mobility Monday, Walking Wednesday, Flex Friday, Stability Saturday. On Thursdays, you'll notice that it's 30 minutes with my lab. So come exercise with us. Our Zoom info stays the same every week. It's Thursdays at 2 o'clock. We start right away on the dot and we go for a solid 30 minutes. So that number is 334-703-3594 for anybody interested. You don't have to have Parkinson's either to come work out with us. It can be family or friends or just supporters of people with Parkinson's. That's all good too. And then you can also email me to sign up on that mailing list. So we make sure we see each other every week on Thursday. We also do record the exercises. So if you're interested in getting the recordings, we'll be able to send you those as well. Last, I want to leave you with our 5 tips. So each of our team members came up with a tip for success for exercising. So mine is obviously going to be do something every day. And I think this is so important because you get the immediate benefits from exercise. And I tend to think of it like I do medicine. So if you're prescribed a medicine that you should take daily and you forget Monday through Thursday, you're not going to say, oh, well, I didn't take my medicine Monday through Thursday, so I'll just start it next Monday. No, if you remember on Friday, then you're going to start taking it Friday, right? So exercise every day. And if you forget, that's totally okay. Or if something happens, that's okay. But do it every day because you do get immediate benefits. And if you're doing it every day, you also don't have time to push it back, right? If your goal is 5 times a week and you wake up on Monday and you're like, oh, not today, you can put it off. So this is a way to stop putting exercise off. And remember that small steps add up to big steps. So another part of everyday exercise is that we have to plan ahead, and we can't go too hard too fast, because you've got to plan, to make sure you can get out of bed and that you're not too sore to complete your exercise daily. And so thinking about small goals and how looking back over a year's progress, you know, it will lead you down that path to bigger goals. Not every day will feel perfect, and that's okay. The goal is honestly that you show up and that you give it your best, and it's not going to feel great every day, and it may not be perfect every day. If you're a competitor and you're trying to get, you know, a certain distance that you want to beat, but it doesn't happen, that's all right. And then there's also ways to incorporate more movement into your normal day as well. So if you have a step goal, remember, like, you can, if you're going out to get the mail, you can walk past your mailbox and maybe walk 3 more mailboxes and then turn around and come back and grab your mail and go into the house. Or if you're walking upstairs, you could walk up and down the first stair 3 to 5 times and then walk up your stairs. I wouldn't recommend it going down, but just going up. So find little ways that you can get more movement in your normal day. And last, this is a good one to end on. Any exercise is better than no exercise. And remember, like, you're making connections and structural adaptations in your brain when you're exercising, and you're getting chemical changes and transmitter changes and benefits from exercise. So any little bit is better than nothing. All right, that is the end of my webinar. Please go ahead. You can either put questions in the chat if you're familiar with that. We're also going to try and watch the screen. So if somebody has a question, if you're raising your hand, we'll try to get to you. I only see like a really little screen of all of you. But I want to say thank you for showing up today and exercising with me, and I'd love to take any questions you might have.
Dr. Roper, I also forwarded you some message or some questions that came up during the registration process. So this should be.
All right. Yeah, I will open the chat so I can see those.
Okay.
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, whoever that was, I think you might be muted now. Try again. Maybe they'll pop back on. If we can't hear you right now, but if you put it in the chat box, or if you want to try unmuting again, I'll try to answer your question.
Let me try it again.
Oh. All right, so I'm not hearing you, but please try again and I'll try and answer your question. So questions during registration. I just read about Nordic walking, and do we have any recommendations for this exercise for Parkinson's disease? So I would say same thing with Nordic walking, you know, that we were talking about with these other exercises. So find a way, especially like forced exercise, there's still a lot of evidence coming out about that. So you don't necessarily need to do that every day, I don't think. But I believe the recommendation is close to like 3 or 4 times a week. So with Nordic walking, if you can, you know, once you've learned the basic techniques. So for those of you who don't know, Nordic walking is walking with those walking sticks or poles. So I would try to incorporate ways that you can move a little bit faster and, you know, harness those forced exercise tips there. And I also see, what is the long-term benefit of exercise on Parkinson's? Will it prolong my life? I know it helps quality of life. So I think that's one thing that is still, you know, always being researched. So will it prolong my life? And we know it helps quality of life. That's a good question. I think that it helps in terms of the quality. And so if you're less likely to fall, for example, falls are a major cause of mortality for all populations, especially once you're going into the hospital. And so if we're doing activities that help minimize fall risk, and even once you do fall, if you're learning how to fall, or if your bones are stronger because you're building bone density, then certainly can have indirect benefits for the length of life as well. And I see, should resistance training be done to exhaustion? So this is a good question, because resistance training has not been something that people with Parkinson's and researchers have really focused on. So a lot of exercise has been focused more on definitely not resistance training to exhaustion. So I would say we don't know. So I wouldn't recommend it, especially because I would rather you be able to get out of bed the next day and go on a walk or to do additional exercises. And so I would actually recommend against it just for that reason, because I'd rather see you exercising daily. And training to exhaustion sounds like you might be pretty sore and might just want to sit on the couch the next day after a training session. And then last, somebody asked about rock steady programs. Yes, I'm not sure what area of Alabama you're in, or if you're maybe even in a different area of the country, but rock steady, I think it's rocksteadyboxing.org, will have lists of gyms that you can attend and try classes out with. There's also online things that we can look at. So see what you can find online. I think there's a place in Montgomery and Birmingham as well.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Jim Stayhauer. It seems like part of my exercise program requires something we glossed over today, and that is stretch exercising.
Yes.
Specific muscles that, tighten up for some reason, and this happens often. And you have to work stretching into your other exercise.
Yes, stretching is definitely a good thing, especially for the muscle rigidity that can come with Parkinson's disease. And, I really need to give a plug there to physical therapists. If you can find a physical therapist, especially at a movement disorders clinic, and occupational therapists too, they're the people to find and work with so they can build a specific program that can help you, because Parkinson's is so complex, as you all, I think, are probably aware. It is one of the most complex diseases out there. And so it really affects everybody differently. So getting hands-on specialized training, especially from movement disorders clinicians, not just the medical doctors, but also the physical therapists and occupational therapists. It's such a good tool to have. And again, something that I think was a blessing from COVID has been this telemedicine that people are offering now too. So if you're not in an area that has a movement disorder center or a center for excellence for movement disorders, then use that a little bit to your advantage and see if you can call and get a tele appointment with a physical therapist or occupational therapist.
Well, there's another type of exercise that seems very, very important, and that is weight training, where you're lifting or working with flex bands or something like that.
Yeah, weight training is also great. We didn't do any of that today for the exercise portion, but I'm also a really big fan of training with weights. Really, whatever you like to do, and whatever feels good to you is what is number one, I think, and just getting exercise going in the first place. But yes, there's more and more that we're finding out with resistance training and Parkinson's. And that's another good way, right, to use that technique called forced exercise, where you're moving faster or harder. Using weights is one of those ways that makes the exercises harder, right? Because it's heavier. Mm-hmm. And so that's a great way to also use that technique.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, if we can only get Blue Cross Blue Shield to pay for the gym.
Yeah.
Amen. I hear you there.
I noticed when we got our shots this week that we were not listed as, I forget what I'm saying here. It'll come when everybody's gone home.
Oh, of course. Well, we'll chat next week.
Okay.
If it comes to you too late, then you'll have to catch me up. Yeah, Thursdays at 2, we offer free exercise, and the exercises are targeted towards people with Parkinson's, but like I said, it's free and anybody is welcome to join. So we'd love to see all of you there, or at least, email me and grab the recording.
Well, hello, everyone. We hope that you did enjoy today's webinar. My name is Bibby Bailey. I serve as the Executive Director here at the Parkinson Association of Alabama. And I want to thank Dr. Roper for educating us and for reminding us today about the importance of exercise. And I want to thank all of you for attending today's webinar with us. A recap of the webinar that will include the video, questions and answers, and other information will be available on our website in approximately 7 to 10 days. And you may reach out to us at the Parkinson Association of Alabama if you need assistance with finding movement-based groups, support groups. Just give us a call or send us an email. And remember, keep moving your body and strive to exercise at least 2.5 hours a week. And add Dr. Roper's and her staff's 5 steps to success to your daily routine. We look forward to seeing everybody next time. So have a great rest of your day.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.